Did you know that approximately 80% of all persons who walk through a counselor's office is there because he or she has not grieved a loss? Hi, my name is Dr. Carolyn T. Long. I'm a therapist, minister, author, and consultant. And I want to talk to you just a few brief moments about loss and the grief that follows loss. Whether we acknowledge it or not, or whether we allow ourselves to go through a grieving process, whenever we have experienced a loss, grief automatically follows. Whenever we have been attached to something, someone, or someplace, and that something, that someone, or that someplace is no longer available to us, that constitutes a loss, and grieving needs to automatically follow. And I say needs to because many times, especially in this society, we do not allow time for people to grieve. We do not see it as a necessary stage or step for them to go through. But since loss happens in all of our lives and is an ongoing process at all times, it is important that each one of us take the time to grieve losses. Now, in our society, death is about the only event in one's life that really kind of warrants a grieving time in the larger society. But even with that, if you lost someone very close to you, a husband, a wife, a child, a grandma, a grandfather, you may get 3 bereavement days from your job. If you have other time on the books, then certainly you may be allowed to take that time. But for many people who do not have that time on the books, they must return to their jobs, and they really are expected to go ahead and do the jobs that they are being paid for. So that's just death. But there are many, many other losses that maybe we don't even define as losses that happen in our lives, and therefore we do not have permission to, and we don't take the time to grieve. Another major life loss is divorce. A major life loss is someone moving away, your child leaving his or her community, leaving their friends. Other losses could be the loss of your role in your family. Retirement is a loss. Even though you may be looking forward to retirement, it's a major life loss. Or being fired from a job, loss of one's identity, loss of, someone moving away to go to college. While that's an exciting time and everybody is happy for you to leave and go to college, think about all that you're leaving behind and all that one has to adjust to. So that's considered a loss, and grieving is necessary in order for that person to be able to move forward. And I want to add, before I leave the subject on losses, miscarriages, stillbirths, those losses, the loss of something that never really came to fruition, the loss of a vision, the loss of a dream, the loss of your health. Those are all losses that one needs to have an opportunity to talk about. They need to be able to talk about what that loss has meant. They need to be able to vent their feelings. Sometimes people may be angry at God for things having happened, but they need to have an opportunity to vent. They need to have an opportunity to talk about what could have happened or what didn't happen. Those are all a part of the grieving process. Different cultures approach grief in different ways, but it is important for you as a part of whatever culture you are a part of to allow yourself to grieve in accordance with what has been allowed or what has been practiced in your culture. The scripture in Matthew 5:4 says, "Blessed are those that mourn, for they shall be comforted." That word grieve could be translated mourn. If you don't allow yourself to mourn, then you may not be comforted. it's very unlikely that you'll be comforted. And for people who do not stop and give themselves time to leave, to grieve, they go from one relationship to another, they go from one job to another, they go from one house, one apartment, one situation to another. Sooner or later, it all catches up. And that's when one ends up in our office, many times suffering from a major depressive disorder. So I want to help you to begin to stop and think, if I'm attached to this person, if I'm attached to this place, if I'm attached to this thing, and there is no longer that person, that place, or that thing in my life, there has to come a time for me to grieve the loss of that attachment. If we pretend that we don't have pain and don't allow ourselves to grieve, we cannot be comforted. Thank you for listening, and seek mental health counseling if you have some losses that you have not yet grieved. Thanks for listening.